For many moons, myself, Phil Zio, and Lee Cheney have been working on an epic collaboration track that you are tasked with reimagining, remixing, adapting, all that stuff to come up with the most creative, the most unique, and the most well-executed new song out of the many parts that we give you, and there is a lot, as well as a lot of MIDI files. And if you do so, you get to win some pretty epic prizes from some great companies, and the top 10 are going to be shown and shouted out on our live stream. There's prizes for the top 3, and none of us have the biggest following in the world, which means you have a much better chance of winning in this contest than some of the other bigger names on YouTube. And I think it's a pretty awesome song that will be hopefully a fun springboard for you to come up with some new ideas and see what happens. We are accepting submissions until December 1st, 2022, unless we don't get enough valid and good submissions by then, in which case we may extend it for a month or two. We'll see how it goes, but we want a large enough pool, maybe 20 to 50 submissions or so, that we can judge from, and so the people who win actually have some good competition, because hopefully we're going to get lots of good entries, and you could be one of those, and you could be on our stream playing your song. Well, your song will be playing on our stream. If you want to submit a music video as well, that is always welcome. It's not a requirement, but who knows? It may get you some bonus points, even though technically it doesn't get you any bonus points. But if you have a really awesome video, maybe we'll like it. Plus, it'll get to be played on our stream, so you get a little more promotion that way for your own YouTube channel, your band, whatever. The complete rules will be in the description below, so be sure to read that, and you can submit your entries at reimaginedcontest@gmail.com. All the info will be there, so please do check that up. And I will have a forum for discussing some of this on my Discord if you have any questions or anything you want to find out there. So let's call in the boys and find out just what is going on in this contest.
Hi, I'm Lee from the Metal Prognosis. I run a YouTube channel dealing with different pedals, different mixing techniques, and just trying different things out to see between the analog, old, and the new digital stuff, or old digital stuff, pretty much anything that makes us tickle and wants to start a really cool conversation.
I'm Phil Zio, and my studio is One Wall Studio, so my channel is Phil Zio, which literally, I got there early enough to be youtube.com/PhilZio, so I've been around a while. I make content about mostly reviewing products, as absurdly detailed fashion as possible, and it's also a haven for me to plug myself endlessly and mercilessly. I drink a lot of energy drinks at the end of my videos because I need that kick of caffeine, and so I tend to be a little bit jittery when it's happening because I usually have caffeine withdrawal, and I'm not allowed to finish, or grab an energy drink until I'm done. That's what my YouTube channel is about learning and just watching me jitter through tutorials and reviews a lot. So I mix things a lot without any caffeine, and it's scary. So come join us sometime. I like to live stream when I can.
Hi, I'm Nick Laird, and you're on my YouTube channel, so I hope you know what I do here. But I do plugin demos, gear reviews, and original content featuring Phil Zio as Dark Shrek.
Is that it?
That's it. I mean, you know what? They're already on my channel, right?
That's true.
You know what?
That's
Just click
fair.
the button,
That's fair.
look at my videos.
They know who you are. They don't need to know who I am. I'm just Dark Shrek.
I hope you're okay with that nickname. It's good.
Well, I earned it, so...
You did. You did. Definitely earned it. We're running a contest where you can remix a song that we have created, and we provide all the stems, and we've got some great prizes. And you can do whatever you want with the song in terms of remixing, rearranging, re-recording, new parts, changing the song structure, whatever. The most creative and well-executed take on the song gets to win. And the judges are us.
Contest-wise, you're not just going to be graded on a mix like in some contests. You're not just going to be graded on remixing either. You're going to be graded on creativity. How can you change the song to make it more interesting or cool or different? Have your own take on it. You could take the drums, you could take the vocals, you could take anything you want out of the song, replace it with your own stuff, and show the world what you can do with whatever you're given.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Lee, in your own words, what are we doing?
Yeah, well,
On the spot!
yeah, so the thing that I'm really attracted towards this competition and really keen to see everyone's input is, yes, rearranging it, adding their own stuff, taking their own stuff out, but you're getting all the files raw that we put together and arranged. So I'm really keen to see also how you implement all those raw things, because the guitars are raw. They're nice and dry. The vocals are going to be nice and dry, as well as, well, all the instruments, and I don't need to list them all. All the ones there are going to be nice and raw and dry. So how you are going to implement it, what are your first instincts? How do you feel about putting them all together? That's what I'm really keen to see, how everyone's going to interpret it their way when they first hear it, and what they vision and where they can take it.
I love that.
Before we go any further, let's check out the song.
Let's check out that song!
Shine
we should all mention what we did. So if somebody decides that they can do that part better than whoever laid it down, or change it to make it cooler, then they should go for it. Like, if somebody wants to replace me, all I did was vocals. So if you think you can write better lyrics, do better vocals, do a better performance of the same thing, I encourage that. I want to hear as many voices on this thing as possible. Now, Nick did a whole buttload of different things for it, so if you want to replace everything he did specifically, you know...
Go for it.
Yeah. So if you want to become one of us, just, you know, we can tell you what we did. That's not a problem. And then you can replace us, and you can be part of our band, but for contest prizes instead of actually being a member. Which is better anyway.
If you can sing better than Phil, then he'll either hate you or he'll love you.
I will love it. I'd really like to hear that song have a good vocal.
It's true. I don't think any of us would actually be offended if you came in and did what we did better.
No.
I think it'd be cool to see.
It would improve the song. It would be a creative reimagining. That's what it's called. It's a reimagining contest.
It's a reimagining contest. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Because it's a remix, but it's not a remixing contest in terms of producing it differently and EQing stuff differently. It's more of, you can have the parts of the song and all the tracks, and you put them in different places, and you can add your own stuff. The only rule there is that you have to use enough of the song that it's still this song, because if you just submit an original song, may be great, but it's kind of not within the spirit of the contest. But we're very loose with the rules, you know? We want you to use what we came up with, change it, add to it, and come up with something new. Not the same song, but different. Unless you want to do like an acoustic rendition, which that would be cool too. But
I'd love to hear that actually.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. If you did it really well and you covered the song with different instruments and you did the same song but with totally new recordings, that would also be awesome.
I'd love to hear it done by like a boys choir with just an organ.
Why boys?
Just an organ. And like some harp or bells or something. That would be really cool.
Yeah, an orchestral, you know, like Hans Zimmer. You can enter our contest too. You know,
it's just gonna
sure
start
you're
with like, and I'm gonna be like, "Where's our song?"
That's okay. Yeah. That would be cool. I mean, you know, doing it in a sort of film score way.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
It might be difficult, but hey, that's the point. And there's, you know, there's chords there. You can figure out the chords. You can do anything with it. And that's the thing, it's a creative thing. It can be metal, but it doesn't have to be metal, and maybe shouldn't. Though, you know, metal's cool, but if you're going to make it a metal version, then you should probably take the parts of the song and make it into a new metal song.
A new metal song?
A new metal song like Slipknot.
Just replace the guitars with like cha-chunk, 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 cha-chunk.
Exactly. Enhance the butt rock vibe.
Oh, yeah. But seriously, take it, make it whatever you want. Unlike these dweebs, I actually really like metal, so I want to hear you make it more metal if possible.
Well, that's true too. That would be good. What is... yeah, go ahead, Lee.
I was just going to also add to it as well. If you're not interested in actually playing an instrument a part of this track, you can still be creative and just edit and muck around with what we've given out to you as well. So if you're not too keen to change your guitars because you don't play guitar or don't want to play in that tuning or whatever, and you're happy with what's there, you can just mix and match and edit however you like. You don't actually physically have to add an extra instrument to it, if that makes sense. You can still be really creative in other ways.
True. And honestly, I do still want to hear people mixing the track. I'd love to have like a community that comes together and says, well, I had this vocal 6 dB lower than you guys, so sounds a little more polished, I think. Like, I'd love to have just people coming in and doing crazy off-the-wall mix things, because that's still fun.
Well, that's true, yeah. And I mean, if you get the raw tracks and you mix it yourself, even if you tried to recreate what I did, it's not going to turn out the same.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. And there's a lot of MIDI files there. I'm going to give I've got orchestra bits, but I'm using sample libraries, so I'll put in the recorded sample libraries as well as the actual MIDI, as well as the MIDI for the drums. So there's a lot of MIDI files here too. That if you wanted to do like an 8-bit remix, you can do that too. That would be awesome. That would appeal to me.
Yeah, that would be.
So
Yeah.
you want the judge's favor. Yeah.
I'd like a dance hall reggaeton remix. So if you're gonna do like use all of it, MIDI-fy it, like I don't know, some kind of 808s, and then just rap over the track, I'd still enjoy that.
Yeah. Bad karaoke version, like copyright free MIDI. Elevator music.
In the moon, it's give me such pain. Oh yeah.
So you really have free reign to do whatever you want, and the more crazy your idea is, as long as it in some way appeals to us, which I feel like isn't really that high of a bar to set.
I like everything, so yeah.
Yeah, I think if it's creative and fun, we'll enjoy it. So there's a lot of possibilities there, and we've got a lot of really great prizes. Mr. Phil, do you want to talk about some of the amazing sponsors you managed to lock down for us?
Not really. But I'd love to talk to you guys about how awesome those sponsors are. So, check this out. We've actually got Audio Assault to endorse this project, and they have some of our favorite amp sims. I know that personally I use Audio Assault for everything, and I'm good friends with the guys at Audio Assault, so if they're watching this, I still like you guys. Send me more stuff. And
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex. Solemn Tones is also a sponsor of this contest, and they're giving away pretty much any choice of their sampler. So winner gets to choose either Kraken or Loki, or if anything has come out since then that they also want to, talk about, since this has been like a year in the making, they can definitely chime in and say that as well. But they're also giving away their Bifrost Cinematic sample pack, and I've used that so many times in productions. As I was saying to these guys earlier, it's really sound design that sets apart a lot of metal these days. And if you really have a good cinematic score behind your music, you can take a song from, as Nick said, a good metal song to a great metal song. So using some of those samples could definitely get you there really fast, because it's tailored towards, not to be an advertisement for Bifrost, but it's really tailored towards just finding the right thing really quickly instead of having to sort through thousands of samples, which I appreciate because I sort through thousands of samples anyway, and having stuff in Bifrost just makes it easier. So we also have AIX DSP as a sponsor, and they're giving away multiple prizes. Their first prize is going to be called the Studio Producer Pack, as far as I'm aware. It's everything. Like, everything they've made, and probably all future products, too. So that's like thousands of dollars of value. So I would not miss out on that, because I'm a huge fan of AIX DSP, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, without violating any NDAs, that they've got some amazing stuff coming out that has plenty of real-world things that I use, possibly in preset form, and possibly in other forms as well. So I'll let you just, suck on that for a little bit. And then the second prize is going to be the Vocal Producer Pack, which I use quite frequently. And third prize is the Drum Producer Pack. So we're talking everything is like $500 and up in value. So the AIX DSP stuff is massively valuable, on top of the Audio Assault and Solemn Tone stuff. Like, if you win first prize, you're probably not going to need any plugins again for a really long time. Like, you'll be set.
I use their plugins, and they're phenomenal. Their drum EQ, their whole drum mic, their iconic reverb, their vocal. It's real top tier plugin stuff. It really is.
All of my vocals use Iconic, which is also why it ships with my presets. So what are you going to do?
That's awesome. Yeah. I have not checked out any of their plugins. So if you want to, you could put me in touch. I'll do some reviews. But
Aaron's one of my best friends, so I think I will.
I've seen him on some, Glenn Fricker did an interview with him and Eric Weiner on acoustics and audio myths. That was a really good video. But yeah, he showed up on that. Yeah, Eric Weiner's kind of a legend for that stuff. He's been doing this a long time.
And Aaron is Pipeline Audio. So
Ethan Weiner, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like not sure about it. Ethan Weiner. Yeah, he's a great guy though.
Yeah. And Aaron is Pipeline Audio, who's been around for a very long time on every audio forum ever. So he's kind of a legend without his name actually having been out there. And so he started AIX DSP so that he could fix all of the problems in the industry. Not to put too much of a fine point on it, but like nobody was making the stuff he wanted to see. Same with Alex. Alex is the exact same way. So those guys just pump out plugins that like do everything other plugins don't. Kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got them as all sponsors because they're all super good people on top of being great plugin companies.
Yeah, I did use the Audio Assault amps on the official mix of this track because I use them all the time. And if you've seen my channel, you know that I talk about them a lot. So, which they don't even give me stuff for free, but I love their products.
Not anymore.
And I don't need to because they're really very affordable and they sound like they're not.
Yeah, I know. I have sold all of my friends on them.
Yeah. I mean, I just love, I'm happy to show for their company for free because I love the work that Alex is doing and Brian of CCow is also making great IRs. So they're fantastic products, but I'm glad they're helping out with this too.
Oh man. Half of my clients are like, wow, how'd you get those tones? How can I get them? And I'm like, spend $9, I guess. Like,
I feel like, Audio Assault is really on par with everyone else. I also just really like that the interfaces keep getting better every time I go back to an older plugin. I'm like, oh, I see all the stuff that I, they've improved on, and they've looked good for a long time, but they keep making them look better. And I'm a sucker for good graphic design and good visuals, especially with an amp sim. Like, I want it to look like a nice amp. And usually if you're getting like a budget amp sim, it's either going to look good or sound good. To have it do both and have the features that people need and want is I don't know how they make any money with their prices but it's cheap living in Mexico.
That's true. And honestly,
and everyone can afford to buy their stuff. So
that's true.
It's fantastic.
And it's better UI design than a lot of the big plugin companies who make it impossible to do what you want without spending like 20 minutes studying the UI.
For real, yeah. The interfaces are it's easy to work with is the nice thing. Like I can dial in tones quickly. There's no clutter,
It's also great because I can recommend it to my clients and then they can either send me the preset they used while tracking or I don't have to do any technical support to help them out getting it set up and doing like, oh, well, how do I do this in the plugin? They're all like, oh, cab. Oh, that's cool. Like, you can move the mic. Nice. And I'm like, yeah, it's real intuitive. Really simple.
I fell in the same boat, I think, as yourself, where they were so cheap, I just had to check them out. I think the first one I bought of theirs was, I think, $2.99. Oh. And I was like, why wouldn't you?
What is there to lose?
And then I started to challenge myself, thinking, how much can I actually get out of this? How much can I push it? How much can I get out of it? And I was like, this is easier than most of my other ones I'm using. This is easier than most of my hybrid setups and other things. So I kind of hopped on that wagon and kept seeing when they came out with specials, see when they brought out something new. And because they're so cheap, not so much just a no-brainer, but it's also exciting to see, as you're saying, like their next evolution. What little pedals are they going to add to help with the noise, or how are they going to change the different amp reactions and all those little things compared to their last one. And they're just solid. They're just absolute solid plugins. And no matter what tuning you do, I tried it with drop C, drop G. I've used their bass one, and it all sounds really smooth.
Oh, yeah.
It really does.
And they update infinitely. Like, I think we're on
Yes.
the 4th version of some of these things, and I've never had to pay for an update. That's insane.
Duh.
No. And I mean, they're even updating like IR pack updates, which isn't even like a software update in the regular sense.
Yeah.
Like he just goes and re-records everything, and you bought the first version of that cab, and he'll continue to support it, even though it's not software, and he could just charge again.
He could just do what everybody else does and make it like, oh, Marshall Cab,
different-
Volume 2. Buy the new
Yep.
one.
Yep. So, yeah.
But even their cabs, their last cabs little bunch I bought was $5
And it was so good.
for the signature pack, and I was like, yeah, it was so good. I chucked them all in a few of my multi-effects units to see how those IRs would react to that, and it was flawless, absolutely
Oh,
flawless.
yeah. I can't talk enough about those guys. They're great.
I know. I really, I love what they do. Well, I didn't find out about them right away when I started making videos on YouTube, but as I started checking out different like plugins to review, they were cheap, so it was an easy thing to like spend a few dollars on. But I just bought some on a whim, and it's been a real love affair ever since. Like, I just use them for everything, and most all the time. I mean, there's plenty of other good companies out there, but yeah, I really enjoy their products, and I really prefer them to using anything else almost all the time. Unless they don't have a particular model of something that I need, then yeah, I think they're fantastic, and they continue to be better all the time. Which they don't even need to really improve, but they just keep putting out stuff. So
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. But stop requesting so many features. Alex will never sleep. Because he just adds them all. Somebody asks, and they're like, yeah, I'll do that. It'll ship Tuesday. And I'm like, stop this. Stop the madness.
So we've talked a lot about audio salt. The AIX DSP, that's like that's a big prize. What are your favorite plugins from them? Yeah, like what do you use all the time? And
So, they have some kind of amazing things, I'll be honest, that to understand them, you actually do kind of just have to use them. But they have Note EQ, which literally just is an EQ that reacts dynamically, but it works based on notes instead of frequency. Like, you don't sweep the frequency, you just go to like A2, and then you adjust the Q of it to see if you got like a lot of that somewhere. Like, it was designed by Aaron specifically so that people could get rid of the flubby bass tones that like ring out ad infinitum and really chug on a compressor too hard. And so he was like, he hated dealing with those like badly tuned or even really well tuned bass strings that still just resonate in a really uncomfortable way in the mix. Like, just shoot that peak at like 100 hertz or 120 hertz, depending on the tuning, like whatever, 90 hertz, 60, any frequency is on there, because it's all of them, but you can do it based on the note. So if somebody's just hitting like an E on their bass that occasionally just balloons upward whenever it sustains due to compression, whatever, it just tames that one note, and it's specifically tailored to that one note. And if you wanted to use it as like a bigger dynamic EQ, you could, but it is every single frequency that is attuned to a note. And so it makes it real easy to be like, oh, especially if you, like, I have a friend with perfect pitch, right? And he's one of my clients, so when I'm dealing with him, he'll sometimes be like, that C4 just jumps out way too much. I'm like, I got you, buddy. Note EQ, C4, just drop that threshold, enable it. And so whenever it becomes a huge issue, suddenly his C4 goes from like, to like, it's just perfect. Like, it's everything a dynamic EQ needs to be, but it's also tailored to notes. So if you're a musician or you're like more musically minded when dealing with mixing, it's perfect because you don't have to worry about frequencies, you can worry about notes. So that's like one of my favorites, just like multiband gate. I have so many purist clients who really want their natural drum sound, but they don't want to spend the money for recording their natural drums in a great environment without a lot of bleed. So as people have always complained since the dawn of time, that hi-hat's way too close to that snare, bro. In the mix, that can cause a lot of bleed. Multiband gate is perfect because it has independent attack, decay, sustain, release on independent multiband like crossover points. So you can adjust how tight the crossovers are. You can have it so that the high end dissipates way quicker. So you get just the smack of the snare in the high end, and then the high end clamps down, and then the mid responds at a different speed altogether, so that like the full body of the snare can ring out, and then just the low end, you can either clamp down on it quickly, or you can have it ring out way longer than the body does. So I've created some amazing, like, I've actually done synth work with multiband gate because of how powerful it is with automation and how much, like, multi-band precision you can get. But especially on toms and snare and kick drum, like, on shell pieces, multiband gate is absolutely incredible because you really want to be able to hone in on the good parts of the drum tone that you yourself wanted maintained in the mix without it all going away the moment a gate's threshold closes. You want some of that low end to ring out. You want some of that body to go away, like, after the crack, but you don't want it all to disappear. You want the tone to sound like you heard it in the room, especially if you're a picky client of mine, or if you have picky clients, or if you just really want a good gate with a lot of customizability. Multiband gate is like the best. It is by far the best gate I've ever used, even on vocals, because, let's be honest, you can hone in on a room tone on multiband gate in ways that you can't with a regular gate. So instead of having that the pop in and out of like a really tight gate, you can have it so that it only pops out in the low end, so that you get like a boo, and then the top end has a little bit more release, or a little bit slower attack, or a little bit faster attack. Like, it's really customizable. Multiband gate's my favorite. Iconic Reverb is my favorite reverb plugin of all time, and all of these plugins are just so good. Like, the quality on these things is well worth the price tag, but you won't have to pay the price tag if you win first prize and get them all. So, you know.
Do it.
Yeah. And if you get Iconic Reverb, you could maybe even use the presets with my name on them and win the competition. Who knows?
That's true. That's true. That's the secret, actually. If you want to win, use Phil's presets, and he'll be able to hear it.
I will.
And he'll give you an unfair advantage because of that.
I'll be like, wait, was that Send 12 Warm Hall reverb? Oh, yeah. That's for the vocals.
Have you used much? I also haven't used any of the stuff from Solemn Tones, so I don't know. And I to be honest, I don't really like MIDI bass, but I'll edit that out. As a bassist.
I'm a bassist, right?
Yes.
So when I get mixes that have really badly recorded bass, sometimes, I'm not saying always, but sometimes with consent, I replace the bass with something from Solemn Tones because it just sounds so much better and is a lot easier to mix. And honestly, a lot of the times is more dynamic than what people send me.
I mean, hey,
yeah.
If it
gotta
works,
work with what you got, and if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. We've all
opinion.
done it. We've all had to trigger stuff, and we've all had to, crossfade stuff in here and there to get through the projects.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's times when I've heard a MIDI bass that I couldn't tell. I feel like I'm pretty good about spotting it, but maybe I only spot it in amateur mixes where it stands out too much. And there's probably other records that I haven't spotted on. I'm sure there are, because I wouldn't know.
And honestly, they do make some of the best guitar virtual instruments for metal, especially because they actually care about the sound of metal. Like, most companies that make guitar plugins aren't focused on that. They're focused on, like, clean John Mayer-esque, very dynamic, pretty, like, jazzy guitars, and, like, Solemn Tones just gets the heaviest stuff, the best down-tuned stuff, the stuff that smacks really hard. They replace the strings on them so that they're the brightest strings. Like, they're very anal about sampling guitar right for metal, and they're another one where they only started doing that because other companies weren't doing it right.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really hard thing to get right, and so yeah, anyone who even attempts sampling, especially heavy guitars. I mean, I feel like bass you can kind of get away with it if the guitars are real, but if you can make a sampled guitar that sounds good,
Yeah.
even passable, is really hard, I think. So I would never endeavor to do such a thing. I'd rather spend the time learning guitar than spend the time figuring out how to sample a guitar in a way that, and the building an engine to make it work. That's just on another level.
And they did build all their own engines. They didn't use Contact because, again, it just so much better to have something that they have complete control over to make sure that it feels right. And I'll be honest, I hate programming guitars in Contact because you have to do a lot of work with MIDI, and if you don't, it just sounds bad. So the fact that they designed an engine specifically for guitar makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, Contact is a good program on its own, but besides the fact that it's expensive, I also feel like if, no hate on any companies that exclusively use Contact, because it can be done perfectly fine, except I just always feel like there's an extra level of value if a company has built their own engine, and it's more interesting to see their software than another Contact sample library.
Yeah.
Because
I love Room Sound. Room Sound makes great drum sample libraries, but I also like Drumforge a lot because they built their own sampler designed specifically for drum samples. That feels a little bit more intuitive.
Yeah.
Just as the way it is.
Yeah. Not to mention for the companies, they can keep more of their profits.
Yeah.
They can sell plugins for cheaper and make more money if they're not using Contact.
That's true.
But it's a lot more R&D up front. So hey.
Yeah. And not everybody wants to program a platform.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard, yeah.
I don't want to. That's why I hitch my wagon to every other company. Solemn Tones makes the best virtual instruments for guitar and bass, bar none. Don't at me. Half my bands use their stuff. And you wouldn't even know it.
All right. I'll believe you. I'll believe you. I don't know anything about, like, really much about the MIDI and the MIDI guitar stuff because I've never bothered looking. Like, I mean, I used Slayer in FL Studio
way back
in the day. Way back, like 2008, 2009, when I started trying to learn my way around music production. I didn't even use Reaper.
Did you use Extremist?
Yeah,
The plugin amp Extremist?
I don't remember that one, no. But I remember Slayer had a built-in, like a built-in amp distortion type thing that it was like one knob that you just like more gain. It was not good. And I don't think I never released any music with that on it because it sounded bad. And I tried. I was like, I didn't have an audio interface when I started writing music on the computer. I played guitar, but I didn't have a way to record it. Yeah. So I was like, well, maybe this will get me around buying another piece of gear. But no, it was bad. I think I've used Boo Bass was their MIDI bass that they had in FL Studio.
Oh, yeah.
And that wasn't so bad. I mean, it wasn't good for metal, obviously, but it was okay if you just needed a bass line. It was kind of a fat bass guitar type sound. It worked.
One of my earliest tracks that my wife won't let me forget about is called I Faked the Bass Line, because as a bassist, I always just recorded bass. But at one point, one of my strings broke in the middle of a project, and I was like, before I could even record my bass, I was like, oh crap, instead of recording with no E string, I think I'm just gonna try out a sample bass, right? And all I was doing was just like playing with some samples. I think it might have been like either early Contact or it might have been like one of those free VST plugin things. But I literally wrote the song based on that idea of I faked this bass line because I had no bass. And ever since, my wife sings that chorus whenever I talk about synth basses or plugin libraries. Because she's like, I faked the bass line. I'm like, okay, stop. This is... Let it die. But it's on my SoundCloud still from way back when, so...
She made it into a meme.
She made it into a living meme.
Excellent.
Just for me. But it's come a long way since. Like, I've always wanted to replace my own bass with easily programmable stuff for certain genres of music especially. But, like, I don't know. I still buy new basses and I always play them, so... One day, I'll fully replace myself with automation, but...
I feel like it would be, for me, it would take just as long, if not longer, to sit down with a keyboard and record the bass part, the guitar part on the keyboard, and then fix all the MIDI. I feel like it's way faster. I can knock out a track in not that much time.
Me too.
But I will say
absolutely.
the electronic drums is a lifesaver because acoustic drums, you got mic up a whole kit, you got tune everything,
Replace heads.
you got to play it well, and then when you edit it, editing 8 to 10 tracks at once is a big pain. Time
Don't
aligning
forget
it.
sound checking for a drum kit, an acoustic drum
Oh
kit.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Also, you have to have nice drums, which are expensive, and I've never had a kit that's really all that valuable. So the shells were very cheap. I had some cymbals that were okay, but not even high end, just decent. So having electronic drums and being able to edit MIDI and just be like, okay, quantize this whole thing to eighth notes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now the trick is don't quantize 100%.
No.
You quantize like 70, 80%, depending on how tight it is. That way it's still got a little bit of your own feeling in it.
I find that quantizing the kick and the snare, pro trick here, be careful, but quantizing just the kick, the snare, and the toms, and then the toms a little bit less tightly than the kick and the snare, but like 100% on kick and snare gets you that polished pop punk sound at the very least, or like what a lot of metal people expect these days. But just not quantizing cymbals, like, at all, gives it a real, like, this is how it was played kind of feel. And then your brain is like, oh, yes, human, but the kick and the snare are still super tight.
I'll have to try that, yeah.
It's a trick that I've learned with drummers who are particularly persnickety about maintaining their humanity, but can't keep to the kick and the snare very good.
Well,
That's not as good, but yeah.
Yeah, I just
Their
like to
standard is
not fully quantize it, but yeah, that's an interesting idea too. Is just only quantizing some elements 100%.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, I mean, I do notice like if the kick and the snare, if you quantize them only 80%, you'll still get those little flams, which
They can be
are
distracting
realistic.
sometimes, to me personally.
They can be, yeah. I feel that, and sometimes I'll manually fix them.
Yeah.
Because it's just can be a weird sound. It is real though.
It is.
And I do strive for realism in my drum tracks over perfection, but both are good.
Yeah.
It all depends on the
There's also
production.
swaying off the beat too, swaying before or after, depending on the groove of the song. I feel is a huge thing, because over quantifying it would absolutely get rid of that characteristics and that whole flow.
And there's definitely
just-
times I do make sure that I emphasize more of like a groove, especially if it's not on the downbeat of like the first or fifth measure. Then I definitely have some like swing and some groove in the between. But in all honesty, a lot of the genres of music I'm working with are like very polished. So I am the worst at video out of all three of us. So my video looks bad, and I never do anything with video. Really, I'm just like straight up audio guy. Sorry.
Fair enough. I've just watched YouTube tutorials and I figured it out. I bought some lights and I figured it out, and I try to make it look better all the time. But I mean, there's plenty. As soon as it's like audio, you do some video, in editing, it's like, oh, you know what? My exposure was too high, too low. My ISO was wrong. Whatever, And then, you color correct, and if there's a little extra noise, whatever,
I took college
You'll
classes on
live
it.
and learn.
I can do it. I just don't like to. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to bother.
I think, you have to have, also you've got your overhead lights on.
Yep. Oh, I'm going to make it as bad for you as possible on that one.
I'm not going to fix it. It's your fault.
It's my fault. I don't expect you to fix it. I look bad.
There you go.
But it's okay. People on my channel know what to expect from my video. It's just a little square in the corner where I'm like, hey, you can see me, kinda. So
the one thing that was funny when we were doing the for this video, actually, you shot all your vocal takes. There's like a lot of, which actually kind of works in a music video. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of auto-focusing going on.
Yeah.
What camera are you using? And is it a cell phone?
On this one, it was a cell phone.
Okay.
When I shoot videos for, like, projects, I actually do care more than my YouTube, like, webcam thing.
So you don't care about this?
Well, since you asked, this is just
Phil
an interview,
doesn't
right?
care about this contest.
This is more just a YouTube
it's not
thing.
an actual live stream.
Yeah. But when I do live stream, I'm only ever in a tiny corner anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That's
But
true.
when I do like video recording for music videos, I tend to be a little bit more careful about my selection. And in this case, I was using my cell phone camera, but only because it had a good lens angle that I wanted to use, as opposed to my DSLRs, which I just don't have enough lenses for.
Yeah. I mean, they can have a similar problem. I mean, my old camera, I had a Canon T3i that I was shooting on a while ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to buy a new camera to start making YouTube videos, but yeah, that camera was kind of a pain because it didn't do like video autofocus.
Yeah.
And if you did hit the button for autofocus, it made a bunch of noise and it took a second.
Oh.
And I specifically bought this Sony camera because it's got nice autofocus that's silent and it runs the whole time. Whereas the Canon, I had to just like set the focus and then not move too much. And it was just a manual. So, which at least it's not going in and out of focus really, except that if like I'm moving around too much in the shot, then it might be a little out of focus. Whatever.
I should clarify, actually. I do love photography and I love video. I just don't like editing it. It's like the process of recording it is fun when it's like a project, but I did take classes on it in college, so I do a lot of like rack focus and like telezooms with manual precision because it's just more fun for me and I feel like it adds character to performances. But my wife was recording the video on my phone, and so I left on the autofocus, and I just kind of told her how to pull out and pull back in when I gave her hand signals. So,
I mean,
that worked out really well.
Yeah. I think it works. I mean, like, I can see, like, the autofocus thing, but also kind of looks like that music video, like...
Yeah.
Almost looks intentional.
A lot of it was intentional. I do like to use what I have to make things like, Guerrilla. I took a lot of Guerrilla video making classes, and I was like, I just took a lot of that with me.
I love Gorillas. Harambe.
Oh, man. Still hits.
Coco. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to write our next song about him.
That's true.
I think it's been long enough
for you,
that
Harambe.
we can start to talk about how it made us feel.
Yeah. No, I think we should express the emotions that Harambe brought out of us.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing you brought out of us, you know what I'm saying, but...
I actually did end a song once where one of my friends was like, "Hail Harambe, biatch," and I was like, okay, yeah, we'll just keep that.
We're leaving that in.
Yep. And it works.
That's the take.
That's the take.
I am open to any and all bad ideas. The worse they are, the more interested I am.
Oh, yeah.
It's called being avant-garde.
And that's my favorite genre.
Yeah. Is it?
No.
Good.
See, I like
How
music.
about avant-garden?
Ooh.
Plant-themed, but abstract.
Abstract plants. Like pot.
Yeah.
Ed plants.
But potted plants, yeah. Talking about that grass, you know what I'm saying?
Talking about that.
That you mow. Just that kind of grass. You know?
I don't
that
mow
tree.
potted plants. That's absurd. That's what you mean by abstract.
Yeah.
Tiny
It's going to be
lawnmower.
bad. So what'd you guys like best about this song? And what did you do in recording the song?
Yeah, all right. I'll chime in first. So what I really tried to do, because I got asked to do a bit of second guitar work, was just try to add some bit of spice to it. Just whatever I could do to bring it up a little bit, give it something, a little bit of oomph, a little bit more oomph, a little bit more something interesting to help it flow and help it to go. But for the standout for me, I think was actually Phil. When you did that really fast, intricate vocal part in the bridge, that really changed it up for me, because once I heard that, that really helped me home in on what more I could add to the guitars without making it too busy and without... Because I was thinking, oh, should I add a guitar solo? Should I add a little bit more of a melodic thing? How could I really, add to it without making it overly busy and making it worse? So for a standout for me, it was like, that was awesome. That was awesome, because that really just, helped me take it to that right tier that I felt like it should. But in saying that, Nick, all the stuff that you did, the foundation work was just on point. It was like, yep. And there's actually one part, Nick, where you did, which I didn't touch anything, because I was like, there's nothing I can do to make this better. There is nothing I can do to add to it and thicken it up. I don't want to touch it, because it is just superb as it is.
It's already perfect. I know the feeling.
And in saying that, though, if anyone's in this competition and wants to change it, don't make my love for it stop you from being creative.
I do think that that's a good point to make, which is the parts we love, you don't have to keep them. You can make better parts that we'll love more.
Yeah.
If you really want to.
It's a love that we haven't found yet, that's all.
Indeed.
Your wife wants to talk to you.
My wife why would...
Yes.
Oh, hello, wife. What's up? I have to finish this up, and then I have to run down to the warehouse and leave out some stands for somebody. But I will be in bed once I do that. Love you. Would you mind closing the door behind you? Thank you.
Do you usually talk to your wife in a British accent?
Alright, y'all. I'm back. What's up?
That was good. That was a good chat. Yeah, it's good chat.
I do appreciate the compliments.
Definitely leave that in the video. Yeah.
At least in the extended video.
Bigger, longer, and uncut. You know.
I mean, people might actually enjoy the uncut one because it's just a podcast, really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
If you want more of us, just no edits. I mean, that's honestly way easier.
True.
If it's intended to be a live show, then there's that. You know, we'll do live streams. They're just not going to be very informative.
I beg to differ. I will make them informative.
Honestly, yeah, we could do some pretty good live streams. I feel like I think we've got the vibe going. I just don't know if anyone would watch them, but you know what? I also don't care.
We've got a twink.
I'll hang out.
We got a twink and
I'll hang
two
out
bears.
on camera. What could go wrong? Now we just need a female.
Nope.
Nope. Now, there's none of those on the internet.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd be more than willing to hear out a female.
Never mind. I don't really want to listen to a woman's opinions on guitar.
Yeah. I personally think that should be cut from the uncut version.
Yeah, I mean, I might. I'll just leave that. That'll be the intro. Welcome to the danger zone.
Welcome. No
Spicy opinions. No girls.
No grills.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, no, I do know. I know exactly how you feel. But anyhow, before my wife so rudely interrupted...
Amazing vocals.
Aw.
Phil, really, as always. I think you knock it out of the park. You sent me so many vocal tracks, I was like, what the hell's this guy on? But the answer is energy drinks.
A lot of
Obviously.
caffeine.
A lot of energy drinks and a lot of tracks. I mean, I already put a lot of tracks into the song, but they're all different instruments.
Yeah.
You've got like half of the track count of the song in vocals alone, so.
I'm sorry.
But I love it. No, I love it. I don't know how to edit it, but, you know, I just bust. My solution is to bust everything. Like, you got 5 different tracks of screams. I'm going to put them in the scream bus.
Yep.
I'm going to do a clean vocal bus, because otherwise, like, I don't know. If I record my own vocals, I'm like, okay, here's, you know, clean track number 1, harmony number 1, and I'm not going to, like, do double, triple takes of those. But I appreciate that you do.
Couldn't be me.
I do. I think it's awesome. I mean, you've taught me how to work with too many vocal tracks, and the answer is I don't worry about it too much. I bust everything as much as possible.
Yep.
Because otherwise I'd lose my dang mind.
Yeah. Look, when I do these kinds of mixes, including of my vocals for other people's tracks, I do it the exact same way. Gang vocals, I do like gang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many I want to do. I just bust them and treat them all like one thing, pan them out, adjust some individual volume levels, and then boom, that's it. It's just a bus at that point. One gang vocal bus track. So,
good.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I got the memo.
If I didn't do that, track management would be the most horrific thing you could imagine. Because I frequently go, I mean, I did that for this song. Consider songs that I compose myself, wherein I use a lot of sound design. We're talking 70, 80, 120 tracks sometimes on the low end.
Yeah.
So
I try to cut it back so that my Reaper projects don't look like a mess, but you know what? If you got to do it, then just bust it a lot.
I spend the first 10 minutes of pretty much all of my live streams sending out links to my live streams, but also just bussing things. Track management.
I think that's what the kids say, right? It's bussin', you know?
It is. It's bussin'.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about the bussy.
Oh.
I think that's about using buses.
Yep.
For your,
Absolutely.
For your vocal process.
That's definitely what all of my coworkers think as well when they talk about having that bussy ready for me. They're talking about having set up the console in advance with all my VCAs.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, for older sound engineers, they should know what these terms mean. If the kids say they're, you know, this stuff's bussin', you know, it's just, they're just talking about track management.
Yeah. I mean, it's a vital part of workflow.
It is. It is. I mean, if you want to get any kind of flow going, you know, got to get that bussy going, you know what I'm saying?
Because that bussy flow will be a heavy flow, which is a reference to, you know, consolidation of tracks under large track counts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want really tight compression, right?
Tight compression, heavy flow, lots of bussin'.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think Eddie Van Halen was always talking about the brown sound too.
Yeah. Like when it comes to tone, there's just no better tone than the brown sound. Which if you can nail that with a little bit of compression and lots of bussy behavior, I think you got it. I think you've really got
nail the brown is what that's what they're always going for.
To nail the brown.
Yeah.
Which coincidentally is our new online educational platform for mixing services.
Nail the Brown.
Nail the Brown.
Bussy edition.
See, I've got a whole different tier of humour towards this, because in Australia, bussy is also a term for someone that works at a nightclub that picks up all the glasses and cleans the ashtrays.
Oh.
A busboy.
Yeah.
Busboy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's in Australia. You have to be careful asking for the bussy in different parts of the world, because you might have someone just pick up after you.
Which, if somebody's going to be cleaning up after me after my meals, then they are definitely bussing.
That's true. I mean, fair enough. Yeah. Well.
I didn't get to compliment you guys yet. You've just been complimenting me the whole time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Please tell us how you feel.
Well, I have some unresolved issues with my mother.
And how does that make you feel? How's that working out for you?
Not great. Well, I do think that, first of all, since you structured it, Nick, I think the structure of the song was really well thought out. I did like that, because you'd be surprised how often I get a track to lay vocals on that might not have the best compositional layout that makes it obvious where I should be singing and where I shouldn't be. So that's actually one of the reasons I lay down so many tracks, is so that people can just cut them and be like, no, you just need vocals over that section. I'm like, oh, great, thanks for warning me. So I do appreciate when people make things easy, because you did send me a whole project with a layout that had labels. And so I was able to take these labels and be like, all right, this is going to be the chorus, is like section C or B or whatever. So that made it a lot easier to manage an actual project. People don't understand how hard that can be, I think. And with Lee, I really liked a lot of the guitar work that he did, because it added so much to the atmosphere of the song. In an already pretty crowded mix, you found a lot of great places to add little flourishes that made it sweet. And I think my favorite track of all is probably the organ track, because I, at times, would just straight up solo that track. And just listen to that while recording and be like, I don't need drums, I don't need guitars, I don't need anything but organ, and just be like, yeah, that's smooth.
I think it's fair to say you're a fan of the organ.
I am a huge fan of the organ. Especially
It's
yours. Your organ is fantastic.
Well,
And I'm really excited to see how people play with it.
I was the organ. Unfortunately, I reached out to Impact Soundworks. They didn't get back to me, unless they see this and they want to add their addition. But yeah, they did their Fredonia grand organ. They did send me a copy for review before, and it's a really nice plugin, really nice sample library. So I was using that. If you, it's hard. I mean, pipe organ is another one. Like, I don't know if it's different than sampling guitar, because sampling guitar is a whole different beast. But organs are very complex, and sampling each individual rank of an organ and getting all that cleaned up and edited and round robins and, getting the sustains right. I mean, that's got to be a massive undertaking. But at the same time, on one level, organ is easy to sample, but but also very hard in every other way. So yeah, it's a sweet instrument, and I like the organ. I don't know if it was just growing up hearing the organ in church and wanting to play one and never doing it, but yeah, it's a great instrument. I like one day my dream is to buy a house with a pipe organ in it. Put a pipe organ in a house. That'd be awesome. But I don't think that'll ever.
You'd have to have a chamber in said house.
I know. I've seen it done before, but honestly, I don't think you'd really get a great sounding organ. And also, I've seen what it takes to maintain and tune an organ, and it's like it's a dream. It's never going to be a reality.
It might be. This project might take off, and you might get an organ.
I don't know. If anyone has an organ If anyone wants to give me the organ.
I was talking more about the success of the project leading to financial, like, dividends for you that could help you afford that.
Absolutely.
But you're over here just, like, shilling, just like, give me your organ.
I mean, there's got to be people out there with, like, used organs, right? No, it's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
I don't even know. However, I do know a guy who runs an organ repair company, so if I ever happen upon an organ, I have a contact at least.
Yeah.
But
it's good to know a guy if you ever find one.
yeah, I'm very much more happy with a sample library than a real life organ that you have to tune and maintain. Not a fun instrument to do that on. No.
I do love those though. So good.
They are. Yeah. They're great. And it gives it that goth sound that we need. As a bunch of obviously very goth boys.
Lee actually looks the most goth out of all of us right now.
That's true. Where's your eyeliner?
Oh, look, there's been plenty of gigs I've done with eyeliners and plenty of teenage moments having the black lipstick, black nail polish.
There you go.
The whole works, the eyeshadow.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I got 3 sisters, and I reckon there was a good few months there I wore a hell of a lot more makeup than any of those, from all of them combined. It was great times.
You have to
Great
send me
times.
some pictures.
I was usually just the guy in the studio with the people who were, like, bare naked from, like, the waist up. And had, like, like really short shorts on, and just had corpse paint all over, and then, like, body paint, and I'm just sitting there next to them in, like, a t-shirt that says, like, bun buns, and they're like, and I'm like, that was a good take, do you want to do it again? Like, we just take, have just a couple to choose from, and they're like, yeah, I think I did pretty okay, but, we could do it.
I'm a little shy.
Really. Like, you need to wear corpse paint to get into the vibe. Don't let me stop you.
Hey, I mean, I'll say this. Better naked from the waist up than naked from the waist down, They come in with just a t-shirt on. It's awkward.
It can be.
The corpse paint on the legs it's not the same vibe. It's different.
Because then you got those skinny, pale chicken legs just, like, poking out from below, and you're like, I can't help but look, but, like, this dude skipped leg day, and
Yeah. He did. Yeah. I know. I mean, you don't get those blood-curdling falsetto screams without skipping leg day. We're not trying to play death metal.
It's less and more.
Yeah, I think the difference between black metal and death metal is just like
quality.
Do you work out or are you fat? One or both.
It's like Boolean. You just, it's logic.
Yeah. What else about the track?
I think it's beautifully atmospheric. I do think that it really lends itself to being produced either as death metal or black metal or even probably power metal if you really wanted to tweak the organs and the background instruments to be more foreground. Like, it could be anything you want it to be, just depending on the combination of elements that you choose to emphasize. Like, it really is.
It's true.
Great.
Yeah, I reckon there's enough MIDI there to really make it really symphonic as well. And you can have that big epic type of notion to it, definitely.
I could see it being extremely cinematic.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the riffs are already kind of power metal riffs, too. I mean, there's kind of a mix of everything, but sort of the main, like, verse and chorus, I feel like those are they're in kind of a power metal vein already, but I feel like with the organ and the arrangement, it's a little... I would say this track kind of reminds me of Castlevania.
Yeah, it really does.
I think that's maybe it's just the organ. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, without the organ, a lot of the riffs could be in a power metal song, no problem. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of everything. Yeah. But
and if you wanted to replace a riff, it would only take so much before you make it a straight up like death metal song. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the verse and the chorus maybe aren't super death metal, but it could happen.
Yeah.
And also, if you took all the tracks and you arranged it for MIDI, it would be Castlevania.
It would be.
Yes.
Sort of.
It would be very,
Close enough.
It would be very Castlevania.
You don't even need the guitars at that point.
Although you could also have the MIDI guitars, and it could just be like an underlying thing, and it would really add to the Castlevania vibe.
Yeah, it would be sick. I mean, that's my inspiration, you know. If I'm thinking about how to be goth, think about Castlevania.
Yeah. I think about Simon Belmont and his pectoral muscles rippling underneath a flowy shirt.
The whip.
And the whip.
Yeah. The whip,
Oh,
yeah.
the whip. Which has its own meaning these days with kids as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The whip.
The car. I mean, that's been for like 15 years. I don't even know if that's like, it's not even a Gen Z thing. That's like a millennial thing.
That they stole.
So at this point, that might be an artifact of history. Yeah. Are they still calling cars whips?
Yep.
Okay.
They sure
All right.
are.
Just gotta keep up with the times.
Yeah. That's why it's important to watch this whole podcast from front to back as a podcast so that you can keep up with the times.
It's true. We've got all the information on Bussy and whips.
And the secrets to the brown cone.
The brown sound. How to hit the brown note with your Bussy whip.
Little different than buggy whip, which existed in the 1800s as a means of transportation.
That's true. That was a little different.
Yeah.
A little more horse-drawn, but, you know.
Still kinda
times
great.
change.
Times
Yeah.
do change. That's why we're making this instead of, I don't know, what did Vanilla Ice do?
Rap music?
Was that rap?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was Vanilla Ice. That's what he was. He was the white rapper, you know? The only thing different about his music was that he was white and the music wasn't very good. That was what made it special.
As opposed
And
to...
he ripped off Queen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like his big hit was ripping off Queen,
True.
which is... I would be a little disappointed if that was like my career highlight, was stealing someone's riff, like sampling a riff.
Yep.
I mean, sampling is cool, but if that's your big hit, that's a little
Do
disappointing.
you think that people could potentially sample what we've done?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, if people want to like sample some of the parts, you know, you want to do some whatever,
Yeah.
hip hop, EDM, you want to turn into a trap song?
I'd be really excited
that.
if I was listening to some trap song and all of a sudden it just like the beat drops and you just hear Shadow of the Moon. I'd be like, yo!
That would be funny. That would be pretty funny. It would definitely work. I mean, it could.
Yeah.
With the right creative mind, it really all depends on. And that's what I think, you know, if people go into it with a sort of mind of creativity and experimentation, avant-garde, then, yeah, the world's your oyster
Yeah.
or something like that, whatever the metaphor is.
I mean, I'd love to just hear like clam? No, oyster. Yeah, that's right. I'd love to hear like
I don't know
can
that.
boom bap with just like Lee's riff on it. And that's the whole track. I would love it if somebody submit that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a reggae remix.
Oh yeah.
It could be cool, man, you know. I don't know. Reggaeton.
Reggaeton. So good.
The more wild it could get, the better.
I agree.
Who knows? Maybe we'll invent a new genre. Maybe someone else will invent a new genre for us. This is your opportunity.
Yeah. Like if you've ever really thought of a genre that you could create out of existing tropes from other genres that were put into a song that somebody gave you all the stems for, this is your opportunity. Like,
And
yeah.
you can monetize it by winning plugins.
And then once you've won the plugins, do it again.
Yeah.
Come back for the next one, and
Exactly.
the next one, and the next one.
Hey, you know what? If you're good enough, we'll collaborate with you in the future.
Will we?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, okay, I'm down.
If you're good enough, that's how I qualified it. If you're good enough. If we really like what you're doing and you're cool,
Yeah.
we'll think about it.
You might even be able to replace me as the vocalist.
Nah.
Yeah, probably. Somebody's gonna come out here and just be like, the most massive screams you ever heard, like the most beautiful, brilliant cleans, and they'll just be like God's gift to the metal world, and you guys will be like, you know what I said? Nah, I didn't mean it.
We'll see. You know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. And the thing is, I will say, with your vocals, it's not just the performance, but being a recording musician. Not only do you deliver tracks quickly, but also you have great arrangement skills, like a producer. Now, you could probably do the same thing with another vocalist, but then you'd have to bring another vocalist into the studio and record them and edit it and send it to me. And, you know, and who knows? Yeah, you could probably find someone who's even better.
True.
Or even a group of people who's even better. But the fact that you know how to do the arrangement, I think the arranging is half the battle.
Yeah.
And also you're a good vocalist all around, like very good. I would say.
I appreciate it.
I think so. I don't have any I don't ever hear your tracks and be like, wow, this sucks. I wish he was better. I mean, I've worked with, you know, my fair share of vocalists too, and usually now at least when you send me, you know, stuff, it's kind of a little bit already pre-edited, pre-cleaned up, you know, maybe some tuning going on, definitely with some of the cleans, but a lot of the times, like, recording vocals it can be cringy.
Yeah.
And I've been there, and I've also been the cringe for other recording engineers, so I know that. But it is what it is. But, you know, as long as you, at least by the time you're done with them and you send them over to me, there's no cringe.
I'm of the opinion.
Only based.
I'm of the opinion that when you get vocal tracks, you should be able to just import them into whatever track session you're working in, turn them all up, and not really hear anything that makes you go, ew. Unless it's like compositionally, you're supposed to feel dissonance. Because I do like to write with a lot of dissonance. What can I say? I am a child of the Byzantines. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, the dark, like, over and over again type of person, but I want it to sound cool. So, like, when you hear a crunchy chord, it's intentional. I think a lot of the times when people cringe, it's because they hear something that makes them uncomfortable, but it wasn't done with intentionality. Doing something with intentionality means you stay on that note, even though it makes you uncomfortable for a second, and then you resolve it. And that's just the secret to crazy, dark recordings.
That's true. And I really didn't process the vocals for this all that much. I mean, certainly nothing. Well, you've already taken care of any tuning already. That would be the biggest labor. But then, you know, it's just a little compression, a little EQ, you know, standard stuff, little reverb send. But yeah, I mean, that's the other great thing is that I don't have to fix your vocals.
Well,
I can put some plugins on them that make them sound a little better, but I don't have to go into like field medic mode and save the dying vocal tracks.
If it was that bad, I would just retake it. Like, the reason this song took me, like, it did take me a couple of weeks to send in vocals, and it's not because it took me that long to edit them. Once I recorded all the vocals, it took maybe half an hour to edit everything and tune everything, because for the most part, I wasn't doing much processing. I was just making sure that all of my performances were the way I intended them to be. But, like, writing was the whole battle, actually. That was the whole thing.
Well, it's tough, and I think that, and you did all the lyrics, so you had to write everything. I mean, I guess some of the melodies were kind of already there in the guitars, but other than that, I mean, you had to choose what melodies to do, and I think that's hard. I mean, I always feel like vocal writing, it's way easier for me to write instrumental songs, which I can do in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I can have a song pretty much done, you know, right away instrumental, but then vocals, especially lyrics, I mean...
Yeah, lyrics is a big thing.
Yeah.
Always.
It is. It is.
I find that
it
lyrics
takes-
work best if you care about the feeling of the song. A lot of the times
Yeah.
they flow naturally from that. Like the feeling of Castlevania, literally, I was like, that's Castlevania. And what do I think when I think Castlevania? Shadows,
Bats.
the moon, bats, darkness, like rising creatures from the ground. So I was like, well, all of that flowed naturally forth from just the Castlevania vibe. That and
Yeah.
kind of, I was reading some like Thomas Ligotti and enjoying some old Lovecraft stuff. So I was like, how can I make
very
this feel
close.
kind of cosmic too?
Yeah.
Eh,
Big tentacle monsters.
big tentacle monsters.
Yeah. Well, that is important too. I mean, if the song has a strong vibe and feeling already, it's way easier to write lyrics.
Yeah.
You know, which is just like, you know, write songs that already have some kind of meaning instrumentally.
Yeah.
It's easier to write lyrics. But it is a real struggle. And depending on the genre and the band and stuff, I mean.
And
Yeah.
there are times when I've done vocals for people. Not to toot my own horn, obviously, because this is like the farthest thing from that. But there have been times when I've literally had to invent the vibe of a song with lyrics and vocal
Yep.
melodies because the structure they gave me was so basic or so simple that it's like, what am I supposed to do with a simple arpeggiated chord that plays over and over again against a beat that's like, you know, so you got to get creative.
Oh, it's true.
This was
So,
actually harder
yeah.
to be creative on because there was so much already going on, actually.
Yeah, there is. And that's the other thing. I think for both of you, I already gave you a pretty dense track. Even by the time I started to write guitars, because I did the organ first.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And then I recorded. I think I just went right to drums after that. Or no, actually, I did the drums first.
Yo!
And set the drums over, and you guys were like, that's pretty cool, but it was just a drums only track.
Yeah.
And then I wrote organ because I was trying to come up with guitar riffs, and sometimes if I'm not feeling it on guitar in the moment, I'll just go to the keys.
Yeah.
And it was just easier to write stuff on the keys, which I don't even do most of the time, but sometimes it works.
Yeah.
So I did the organs, and then I did the guitars based off of that and all the other stuff. But then you have to come in. I've got like already, you know, keys, guitars, bass, drums, and then you got to add extra guitars and vocals. And then I added orchestra stuff,
Yep.
strings and horns on top anyways.
As was suggested that could feel massive, I was like, if you can find it, do it. You know, fit it. Because
Yep.
I love that stuff. I wanted
Yeah.
to do it originally, but I was like, anything I could do right now would get in the way. I want to see what you could come up with. But, man,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun, though. Honestly, like, hearing it start as just straight organ and drums, and I do remember thinking to myself, I really like that ride pattern that you use during, like, the one big organ section, which, you know, that was a long, long time ago, but...
I think that's what Fenris of Dark Throne calls the Hello Kitty beat.
Yeah,
Da-da-da-da-da.
yeah, but I loved that, because it was just, like, it leads.
It's a meme. I love it. It does. And it's a great, I don't care if Fenris doesn't like it. I think it sounds cool.
And I love it on a ride cymbal. Like, it's just getting it with that,
Yeah.
like, din, 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 din. It's so good. So that ride
Yeah.
and that organ together just created the vibe immediately of, like, mystical, like, floating through darkness and clouds and spaciness, but also very down to earth, very aggressively, like, dark, churchy kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's fun. The Cathedral of Pain.
Cathedral of Suffer. Cathedral's a good band, actually. I do like Cathedral.
I do, yeah. They are actually super sick. If you're into the old school doom,
Oh, yeah.
good stuff.
Which I am.
Good stuff. I am, yeah. I think Pantheist was another kind of similar band.
Yeah.
That back in the 90s that did some cool stuff, though apparently they're still around.
Yeah, they are.
They did a riff on Beethoven's Seventh Symphony Movement 2.
Yep.
Which was also in the movie Zardoz, which you should watch Zardoz if you haven't seen it. It's a classic. Have you seen it?
Yeah, man.
Hell
Holy
yeah.
balls. That's not one
It's
you
like
expect.
my favorite movie.
That's not something you expect somebody to just drop at any point in a conversation.
Zardoz.
Zardoz.
Yeah. It's like a little meme, but also I've watched the movie like 5 times. Absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I don't do movie reviews.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to do a movie review for that because I love it so much.
Yeah.
Because it's an epic movie. It's got Sean Connery in a little red diaper.
Oh, yeah.
With a bullet belt. He's going baby and black metal all at once.
Yep.
And I also just feel like it's one of the deepest movies. It's like a B sci-fi movie from the 70s, but I just feel like it really says a lot about society.
I love it.
It does.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does, you know?
Yep.
You got the immortal people on the bubble.
Oh, yeah.
On the inside. They can't get sick, they can't die, but they also don't care about anything.
Yeah.
And then you've got like people just killing each other and like suffering and farming and stuff outside. And there's, it's great. It's deep. It's really deep.
Talks about the difference between kind of like wealth disparity, but really the difference between like a subsistence life having value and like meaning because you have all of these opportunities for good and bad, whereas losing the capacity for both kind of takes away humanity. It's like,
yeah,
it really makes you feel
and
something.
with all our technology, even in music, it's like we have so much technology, we kind of have more than enough tools to make the best music ever possible.
Yeah, we have Soothe.
I feel like
that's all you need.
Everything. I mean, all the plugins, all the digital tools, even all the great hardware. The hardware keeps getting better too. It's like we have all the tools. It's only a matter of like, do we make the music?
Yeah.
Because we have to. I mean, the tools don't do it for us. Having the best amp in the world doesn't matter if you don't make the music. So
I mean, I use the same amps that some of my friends use because, like I said, I recommended them Audio Assault plugs. But, like, at the end of the day, they're using it for stuff I would have never dreamed of. Like, for one thing, I pick way harder than most of my friends. But, like, the things they get out of them are just tonally, like, different. They're unique. They're making different music with it. They're making indie rock, punk rock, pop punk, like, all genres with varying degrees of polish, and they're just kind of nailing it because it's what they feel, and they're not picking at 100% all the time like I am.
pick hard if you want to go hard.
Pick hard if you want to go hard. But you can use the same tools and get different results. Still.
That is true. Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
It's very true. Yeah. I mean, I think they're good for anything. That was, I think the first one I tried was the old version of the RVXX.
Oh, yeah?
And what really, I mean, I think the high gain tone on it was not bad, but it was not the best. It was a little crispy. But what really impressed me about it was being able to do the lower gain tones really well.
Yeah.
And I just always felt like all the amp sims I had tried before that kind of suffered at that. Like, they might be okay for a metal tone, but they weren't so great for like a kind of, edge of breakup, more bluesy tone or a clean tone with a little crunch on it. And so that one really impressed me for being kind of amp-like in that way. And that it wasn't just like only high gain or only clean. It could really get that in between well, which I think is hard.
I think that was one of the times when I first noticed that they were moving in a different direction. Because for me, I'd been with them since like way early on. Like before I ever even met Alex, I had bought the first grind machine and the first bass grind and like, real early stuff. And RVXX came out and then Sigma came out and I was like, these are just boutique amps. Like, hey, I'm not getting chug chug. I'm getting like really nice, warm lead tones, and I'm getting to solo for days and feel like I get tone, you know? But before that, I honestly had Acme bar gig stuff that kind of got close, like Ken McLaren, you know? And the only other thing I had was like Pod Farm and Amplitude like 2, 3, something like that. And honestly, the early Amplitude stuff wasn't great. I like a lot of the 1s and 5, but like 2 and 3 were a lot less good. And Pod Farm, in all honesty, a lot of people get good stuff out of it, but the only thing I ever really loved was cleans. And the Pod Farm cleans were like unmatched for me in the software world until I got the new Audio Assault stuff, because I was like, I can actually get that chimey but also smooth tone that I'd get from a clean channel in like a real JC120. That I do have access to real JC120s, but I don't always want to reamp. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. No, it's a whole different ballgame. Plus, I mean, you know, even if you have the real amp, if you don't have a good load box for it, that'll cost a few $100. You know, on top of an amp that might cost a few thousand. Yeah. So all parts of the signal chain are expensive. I mean, when you figure in even the cost of a load box, you could pay for a decent audio interface and a whole bunch of good plugins. Yep. Especially from Audio Assault, like you can pretty much buy the whole catalog for around $100 if you wait for sales, you know. So it's pretty crazy. And I think, I mean, it's hard to justify the price difference between them. Yeah. And you would think, okay, if you spend like $5,000 on like a boutique tube head, one head, and a good load box and all for that, you know, is it going to sound that much better? No, probably not. I mean, maybe it will sound a little better. Maybe. I don't even know. I don't have access to that level of equipment to A/B it, but at some point I will. I will find people to reamp stuff, and we'll figure it out, because I feel like, I don't know, when I shot out my own tube head, my Laney here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's nice. I've never loved it for, which is funny. I've always thought it really excels at more like vintage tones.
Oh, absolutely.
But I was talking to some guys who were saying that it was too modern and too djenty for them, and I'm like, I feel like it doesn't gent.
Wow.
Well,
and that's like,
there's a misconception there, because a lot of guys like gent tone is radically all over the place. You get Viljarda, who has like freaking just pure scoop all high end. You've got Meshuggah, who's got some relatively organic tones now, and then you've got other people who are all mid focused, and every single one of them is gent. So gent tone.
That's true.
Like, when people talk about gent tone, they could mean anything. Yeah. So if you're talking like Animals as Leaders, you get a massive mid peak there. That might be what they're thinking about when they're saying like, oh, you know, it's too genty.
Maybe, yeah. I do feel like it's got a lot of mids, but I feel like it doesn't, even if I like dime the highs and the tone knob on it, I feel like it doesn't have as much of the crispy, you know, high end that I would like. You know, and then it's not quite as tight as I would like, but who knows? I mean, it's a good amp, but the main thing was just sort of like, if I shoot out the A tube amp with a bunch of amp sims and try to get them to sound as close as possible, is the tube amp going to stand out as being better? And again, in the comments, myself included, if I wasn't editing it, nobody really guessed it right.
I didn't.
I couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't. No.
Yeah. I mean, nobody could really tell the difference. And so that's the thing. Like, does it matter?
I'm pretty sure on that one,
yes.
I straight up chose, I think it was an Audio Assault plugin, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds to me the most like what I would expect the amp to sound like, and then it wasn't. And I was like, whoa.
Maybe you're preconditioned to the
I
plugin
am.
that you like.
Maybe I just react better to the plugin dynamics. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, maybe it says a lot about society. Maybe maybe we're all so used to plugins that when we hear a real tube amp, we're like, nah, that sounds bad.
Well, I expected
But I don't know
there.
that that's it, you know? Yeah, I just figured, like, maybe there was a secret sauce, you know? Maybe there was something, you know?
When Alex and I were doing
And who knows?
profiles, we noticed at one point that even with, like, his most basic profiling tech, he was able to get literally 96% of the way there. And I say 96 because, like, the only thing I noticed was that the high end was a little bit more pronounced on the profile at the time. And once he corrected the algorithm, I couldn't tell an A-B shootout with my own head. Like, I was shocked. When we profiled for Grind Machine 2, I was like, wow.
Was he profiling with a Kemper or?
Nope, he invented his own algorithm for profiling.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Because he didn't like how
That
the
is
Kemper
something
did it.
different.
That's cool. I always wonder with the Kemper, like, I mean, now I've never profiled anything with a Kemper, so, like, how does it respond to different gain levels? Like, do you set it in different places? Because it's kind of a snapshot, like an IR, as far as I understand.
It's a series of snapshots, from what I understand. It's kind of like...
But like a real amp responds differently. How does it capture, like, the sweep of a EQ or the sweep of the gain knob?
Steps, I think. I think it's like they call it the bouncing ball, if I recall. Because I don't own a Kemper, but I have talked to people who own them. And when I've asked them about it, they're like, oh, you just follow the ball. And then once it gets to the end, it just says, are you done? And you're like, yeah.
So you actually sweep the knob and it...
But I think you follow it, if I'm correct. So, like, there's a ball, and it's like, hey, turn it from here up to here. And so it kind of follows the EQ curve a bit. I don't know if it actually does the exact thing. I think it just looks at the Q, or, like, the width of the thing. But I don't know. It's proprietary, so...
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, anything like that, you know, it's always a matter of, like, you know, how accurate is the Kemper or your modeling tech? Like, I think that it's, I mean, people are happy with Kempers. Yeah. I mean, even 10 years later, people are happy with Kempers. I've never owned one or played one, so
I've wanted one forever, but I can't afford that.
I know. I mean, I've wanted one since they came out, but they're still $2,000, which I guess says something because, you know, most gear like that, even if it was $2,000 then, like, you could probably buy an original Axe Effects for like $200.
Yeah,
but
like 400.
A Kemper, but a Kemper is still valuable. Yeah. Like, you know, OG Kempers are not really losing value, which is very rare for digital gear.
And I'll say,
yes, absolutely,
Axe Effects don't really sound like the amps they're modeling. To me, they sound like somebody's idea of that amp. Like, they sound like the idealized form of an amp. So I don't really think they were capturing amps. I think they were, like, shooting out and then just tweaking and then being like, well, I don't really like this about the original amp. Let's cut some 4K or whatever. Like, you know, because Axe Effects have never sounded like an amp to me. They always sound like an Axe Effects.
Yeah. Well, that's saying is, like, if they're doing, you know, like, white box versus black box, you know, like, a Kemper is like black box modeling where they're just trying to read the amp. And, you know, if you're doing like a full amp simulation circuit, you know, that's white box modeling, and that can be done very well. And in a lot of times, I feel like I prefer that.
I do. Generally.
I'd rather that someone would understand the circuit and model the circuit, rather than just try to capture a snapshot of it. But, you know, Kemper does the black box thing very well, and then there's people who do both. And most of these companies don't tell you what they're doing. Yeah. And they don't explain it. So I have no idea. Like,
look at Neural. Like, Neural DSP unveiled massive engine optimization updates, and then people were like, hey, where'd this setting go? And Neural was like, oh, just, we don't worry about that anymore. It's like,
it's gone.
Like, oh, okay.
Those aren't the settings you're looking
Exactly.
for.
And I had friends that legitimately were like, where's the oversampling? And when they sent in a support ticket, Neural was like, oh no, we decide when the oversampling is necessary. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I know they started that with the because I looked it up for the Gojira plugin.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one they started it with, where they do like intelligent oversampling or
Quote,
something.
unquote.
So there's no oversampling option.
Yep.
And you have to assume that it's doing it at the right time. Like the more gain you apply, the more oversampling you'd probably need. But they don't tell you. There's no option on or off or whatever. So
In my opinion, everything should take the Soothe route. One, because Soothe is the greatest plugin ever made, and two, because you have a grid of options right there where it's like online, offline, real time, not real time. Like you can set the oversampling options based on not only what kind of rendering you're doing, but whether or not you're currently rendering or playing. So it's like playback engine versus render engine, and you just set the choices. You can set it once or you can set it on a per plugin instance. That's just the way it should be done. Like everybody should give you the tools to do what you want in each scenario, because what if one of the Neural DSP plugins decides that you need 16 times oversampling when you're rendering, and all of a sudden your CPU usage shoots up to like 99%, and it slows it down dramatically? Well, how do you know what plugin's doing what? You have the performance window
It's
open?
true.
Like, come on.
I mean, I'd be okay with the intelligent feature if it's an option like auto or manually set.
Yeah. It would be nice to have the choice.
That would be nice. Yeah. It's a little annoying when it's just like a mystery.
I don't like mysteries.
But-
I like science. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to know what's going on, because also if it doesn't say there's oversampling, I'm going to assume there isn't. So,
Me too.
yeah.
Even some clipping plugins have by default 2 times oversampling in certain modes, and they don't tell you, and then it's like, why did this shootout fail? Like, what's different about this plugin that's not just hard clipping, you know? Like,
Yeah.
ugh. Bothers me. Everyone's gone. This is my solemn duty to all of you.
Mic off.
This is my final opportunity to do a great monologue. To really tell everybody the things that I'm thinking. To really get my ideas out there without anybody interrupting, or anybody else having to take a turn to speak. This is my one and only opportunity to really tell people how I feel about the state of affairs. About the world, about society, about music, technology, recording, information, about the state of the internet, intergenerational conflict, all of these topics of conversation that we've had today really makes you wonder, makes you think, how many people do you think really care about the majority of these things that we're talking about? How many people do you think are using this full-length podcast, maybe edited down to the point where this isn't even in it? How many people do you think are listening right now? To me, a crazy guy sitting in a basement talking into a microphone that he spent hundreds of dollars on, into a recording chain he spent thousands of dollars on, with a webcam that cost maybe $14 when he was 20 years old? Who knows? And it's Lee. Hi, Lee. Howdy. How you doing? My day's off for Wednesday, Thursday, so...
Oh.
Yep.
So midweek weekend.
Yes, sir. But hey, you can get a lot done, because a lot of state stuff is closed on weekends. So... Gives me the opportunity to run a lot of errands.
Ah.
Yep.
No, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Errands are excellent.
I agree. Very important.
I love errands. I love using all my free time for errands. Except I don't. I use it for YouTube.
Oh, yeah. And everybody here
Yeah.
appreciates that, because it means we get more content. Look, I'm a sub. I like it.
I hope so. I hope you watch every video 100% all the time.
I actually do save it to when I can watch it 100%. because I don't want to affect
That's
the
good.
algorithm by only watching it partially and then stopping.
That's smart. It's very smart. You know what? Even if I put out a 20-minute video, you know that it's 100% edited. So
Yeah.
it's only the best parts. And I would say most of the time I'm recording for like an hour or so and editing it down to about 20 minutes.
Oh man.
So
I know that feeling.
it's only like 1/3 of the content, but the rest of it's like repeating lines and stuff
That's fair.
that you don't want to hear anyways. Yeah. You can't really have a good conversation with yourself. With something like this, well, this is going to be a nightmare to edit. But hey, I'm going to do it.
I mean, once you get
You
the
don't have
sync, you'll
to.
be fine, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can exactly. I can do a very loosely edited copy for the extended cut.
Oh yeah.
And then I can go, if I want to get a 20-minute video out of this, it's going to be a little challenge. It's a matter of what to keep.
Keep in mind,
You know?
you're also going to be playing the song at one point, so
It's already like 4.5
yeah,
minutes.
that's right there.
So that means I need to get. I mean, I think that I can do it. It's just a matter of finding the clips I need to pad out
Yeah.
that 20 minutes or so.
And then at the end, just being like,
I can do
if
it.
you want to watch the full length version, you view it here live and uncut at whatever.
Patreon.
Check out my
It's like-
Patreon.
Yeah. So you can watch the worst copy of the video. I mean, I've thought about that. It's like, you start a Patreon page so they can get like more content, except that what would it realistically be? Is like less edited stuff.
People who don't have day jobs can afford to make like a second video for Patreon, but
Well, I hope this discussion has been entertaining and informative. So be sure to check out the rules in the description below this video. Come up with the best entry that you possibly can and submit it before December 1st, 2022, so that you can win some great prizes. And as always, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'll see you in the next video.